Welcome to the Raw Food Health Empowerment Show. We are live on YouTube, and today we are talking about managing PMS and business. But first, we had a homework assignment from, from 2 weeks ago, right? I was gonna bring my basil plant because, Mom, you talked us through how to get started growing our own basil. And for me, it was quite difficult because the first place I went to was Home Depot, like you said, and Home Depot was being a hater. They had all the things that you could grow, food, romaine lettuce, like everything, and none of it was organic. And I tried to talk to the customer service there. They said, oh, you got to call tomorrow to call the buyer to make a request because they may not, it's like they wasn't trying to have any organic plants. And it's like, are you kidding me right now? You selling leafy greens for people to eat that's been like sprayed like with chemicals, don't you understand? Like people are dying, and like we're gonna talk about that because honestly the fact that it's so hard to find organic here. I feel like this needs to be hammered into people why this is so important. If it's a policy measure for subsidies or something else, I don't know what needs to happen. Everything probably needs to happen, but we need to have organic. This is what accessibility looks like healthy food, not greens sprayed with chemicals that are going to mess up my hormones and give me cancer and all sorts of things. Nobody wants that. Why eat a green? First of all, most of us don't like the taste of green, so why eat a green that's toxic? It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
So anyway, Home Depot was hating. So I had to go online and search where I could find organic. And the surprise was Walmart. And the biggest surprise was it was in a place where I could physically walk and go in the grocery area. So I found a basil plant. Her name is Renera. Okay. And you were asking me why the leaves are brown. So in some areas there are brown spots.
They're not holes, is it?
No, there are no holes. They're just, I don't know if you can see.
Spot.
It's just little brown spots.
Okay. What you have to watch, Sam, the stem of the plant. Make sure the stem is not turning color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one that's brown there.
Right. That you might be giving it too much water.
I hardly give it. I just learned it only wants a quarter cup of water every 2 days. Because yesterday I tried to give it a little more and it just passed everything out. So it seemed like it could only retain a quarter cup at a moment.
Do you have something underneath to catch the water?
Yeah, it's in
my
little
all right, good. Yeah.
wooden bowl.
Yes.
But when I got Renera, she was in Walmart, not by a window. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you walk into Costco and it's cold. It's in the produce area. She's just sitting on a thing with plastic over her. So I'm not sure what the care was that she got before I picked her up. So
you're a good foster mom.
Thank you. Thank you. I brought her home. I was singing to her. I introduced her to Daddy. I gave her a tour of the house. Sometimes she stays in different areas depending on where the sun is because the sun, doesn't stay in one area throughout the day. But it seems like most of the day the sun's on my side, so she gets to spend time with me while I work. And for the first night, she was in the bedroom, so she could just feel the love, and just like get, into the whole, vibe of the family. Yes. Yeah,
exactly.
Like an energy thing. So,
and that's good for the plants. It doesn't matter what kind of plants you have indoor. That's how you have to treat them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I know you taught me that trick at first. I was like, are you serious right now? Like, my mom would be crazy. But that was the only thing that worked. I was killing plants before that. Okay, so let's see your spinach.
No, don't embarrass me.
What
Do
happened?
not embarrass me because we live in New York. We are in the north. I didn't realize that the end of September they remove everything. They
Mm.
send it down south. So you should have some nice ones down there.
Are they organic? Is the
Yes,
question.
they are. Because the rock that I was heading for was the organic rock. They remove all vegetables, plants, vegetable plants, only house plants you could find there. They remove everything.
Wow.
And I was reading something, and they said the best time to do the seeds wouldn't be now. I think it's that sometimes in not the early spring, but a little before spring, something like. So I am very sorry. I still have my basil plant that is doing so wonderful.
Yeah. And that is the goal I'm trying to get to actually. Is to get Renera to that size because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can make pesto every day if I wanted to with that. So I want to just let folks know that we have a live coming up soon, and I'm just scrolling past my notes here to get to that date next week, October 16th. So not the not the Saturday, which is the 15th, the Sunday, the 16th. So we will be here live on the Saturday, the 15th, but on the 16th, Khadidra from Eat Fresh Veggies, who is a speaker on the summit. So the Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit is open now for free registration. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. You can
Hmm.
sign up. October 28th to October 30th is the free viewing of the summit where you get to really dive deep into the raw food lifestyle, how to make it sustainable. And then if you feel called, if you're really passionate about making health really a pervasive part of this culture, how to be a leader in this space in different ways, maybe starting a business, working for a business, starting a nonprofit, whatever it may be. So Khadija is a guest speaker on the summit. And next week on the 16th, she's going to be showing us live right here on YouTube how to grow goldenrod, which is an herb. So we are
Correct
getting,
me. Correct me if I'm wrong. You
yeah,
said we won't be having a live.
we will on the
We will.
15th. And we're also live on the 16th with
Oh, so
Khadija.
2 days. 2 days.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
I got it.
The
Hmm.
Sunday, the 16th with Khadija. She's going to show us how to grow goldenrod, which is an herb that is great for a list of different things. So we'll be able to talk more about
I
that
never heard of it.
next week. Yeah, it's beautiful though too. Like just it has medicinal properties for the body, but the plant itself is just gorgeous. Like,
Mm.
you know, so I can't wait to see. She's doing a demo for us, so that'll be really cool. Um, with that, also on the summit, we're talking about menstrual health. And, I'm an entrepreneur. I come from two entrepreneurs, two small business owners. So we have it in our blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I am in circles with a lot of other entrepreneurs. And one of the things that tends to come up actually quite frequently is how to manage PMS with business, like having a flexible working schedule to work around premenstrual syndrome. That's what PMS stands for, premenstrual syndrome, and how others are working through that. Um, I'm really curious, Ma, for you, because I know, like, right now, there is a lot of changes that have happened in the economy. It's just vastly different from when you were working and when you were in your 30s, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, like, I know you've dealt with PMS.
Mm-hmm.
How did it impact your business, and did you ever like make adjustments in your business because of it?
No, it made adjustment
what you what you mean?
because I wasn't paying any attention to it. This
Hmm.
is what this is the kind of person I am, and there was other things that little illnesses that I went through while having the business, and I never paid any attention to it because I said, always said, this too shall pass. The
Interesting.
the PMS, it adjusts itself to me because I wasn't paying no attention to it.
Yeah.
And what's the other thing after you have babies? They call it when you have babies. There's a name for it. Uh,
Postpartum.
postpartum depression. Postpartum. That one never approached my door.
Well, that's good. Yeah, some people deal with that, which is like a
It
different.
probably was there. It probably was there, but I was too busy. That's how I treat my mind, though. I don't pay attention to. See, because I always find those things to be so negative in your life, you know? It's a negative attack that you're under. So I try not to pay any attention to it. But yes, business went on.
Well, I could say it's so funny because we're coming up to the summit right now, and
Mm-hmm.
last year was the first time I launched this summit, and I launched it. It was like basically this time. It was October 4th through the 6th, I believe, last year. And so the lead up, there's a 3 week promotional period before the summit, and it was a very stressful time even before we got into the 3 week part. I remember some of the things I said to like my uncle and different like on how important it was that this summit was successful and everything went off perfectly, right? So there's like this perfectionism thing coming in, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you are a person who has type A personality and perfectionism tendencies, you understand what that does. so,
Mm-hmm.
so there's that. Running a summit, there's a lot of tech involved, okay? Um, and there's just a lot of things going on. Plus, I
Mm-hmm.
have things going on outside of the summit, right? And so, managing
Exactly.
all the things at that time, I had recently moved to Florida. So, it was a very stressful time, a very busy time. And so between that and now my menstrual now is coming up to the start of the cycle. So, the start of your menstrual cycle is your period, right? So that lead up to it is really where folks are having those PMS symptoms, right? In that week or two leading up. And so I have tech, which tends to be stressful. I've had 2 panic attacks over tech for my business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then with everything going on, it needing it to be perfect and all of this kind of thing. And then there was some conversations, stressful family conversations I had where there was just a lot happening in me emotionally. So my stress levels were high now, and
Mm-hmm.
then my PMS now is coming in. Where PMS, take a breath, Mom. I know it's a lot. My PMS is coming in now, and like what happens with PMS is progesterone is out of whack, estrogen is out of whack, so your hormonal balance is off for folks that
Mm-hmm.
deal with that, right? This toxic soup basically created immense amounts of pain for me to the point where I missed an IG live that I was supposed to host to promote the summit. So it actually impacted my business. I had to call my one of my guest speakers to say, "Hey, can you do this without me because I'm in so much pain right now." It literally just
Mm-hmm.
took me out at a time when it was so important for me to be on. That's what I was
Right.
telling myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so I totally get and empathize with this, and I've had to do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work, which is why I specialize in anxiety and things like this, because normally I don't have any pain when it comes to my menstruation. It comes, it goes. It's not an event. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Oh,
a
so you
thing.
don't get pain.
I don't. But that time,
Yes.
it was a
Hmm.
war happening in my uterus. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
okay, yeah. Well, you
It
see,
was so bad.
you're
Um,
experiencing something completely different. So this is why I responded the way you respond. I used to get a lot of pain, but I think I told you before that I can tolerate pain. Those pain were painful, and I know they're supposed to come, and I'm expecting them. So they just become a part of my life. But the anxiety part and all that part, I never experienced.
and really, what it is anxiety is psychological turned physical, right? And so when it turns physical, there are certain things that happen and it manifests a little differently in different people. But ultimately, hormonally, what happens is stress hormones are increasing. So cortisol is increasing. And that,
Mm.
even if you're not having anxiety, but you have a stressful event,
Mm-hmm.
your cortisol increases, you know? And so, but I do like what you mentioned there about, expecting pain, which is why I highly recommend anybody who expects pain around their menstrual cycle to register for this free summit, because we are talking about how to avoid that. And even if you're on the older side of the spectrum, maybe you're approaching menopause, now is a great time to register for this summit, because we have Delilah Fitness talking about her menopause transition was very seamless because of her raw vegan lifestyle. Why are you smiling? What, Alan?
I'll wait for the summit if I can talk, but maybe I won't be able to. But I can address that part right now. I've never experienced menopause the way other people do. And can I just be frank with what I'm about to say?
Be frank.
Be be frank, be open,
Yeah.
don't keep anything under the cover. God is wonderful because I've experienced torture while I was working where the females, they would slap me, they would do things to me, not intentionally, but accidentally. Because when they get an attack, they'll swing their hands and the hands would hit me. And I always pray to God and say, God, when my time comes for me to go through this, don't let me ever behave like this. Sometimes you don't think God is listening to you, but He listens to
Wait,
everything you
what?
say.
You talking about
Yes.
women going through menopause and physically
And
assaulting you?
yes, they sit in my chair and it come on them so badly, Sam, that they take this thing off me. Boom. They don't turn around and punch me by swinging their hands. They hit me.
Because they're going
But
through
I
hot flashes.
but I understand because sometimes I just thought it was a mental thing, and I prayed to God. I said, please, God, don't let me ever do this. So what I find that I was doing that every time when I was going through mine, while I was still working, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because I experienced it at a young age, anyhow. When I was going through mine, I would smile, and people would ask me, Darren, you sweating? Why are you smiling like that? I say, I'm just hot blooded. And that's how I handle it.
Hot blooded. Interesting.
Yeah, but I tell you, God is an awesome God. Trust me.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I hear you talk, Ma, what I hear is someone who um, dealt the hand she was dealt, and the best way she knew how to deal with it was to
Mm-hmm.
suppress it so she can power through her day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
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 that's
and for the people now, I want to highlight that right now what I'm sharing with you at the Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit and these speakers that you could tap into, hear from them for free, work with them if you need to really make sure that you don't have to be in that situation, because we know a lot more about our bodies now. What you said about like the women and the hysterics, there was a time when doctors would just cut women's uteruses out, because they thought they were hysterical or whatever, right? So they would just carve that whole thing out. But now we understand there was actually nothing wrong with the women.
exactly. Do you know the amount of women who have hysterectomy because of that? This is so very sad, though. But
Yeah.
something that's why you have to have a developed mind, or with certain things, because if you're aware that these are the things that's gonna happen to you, be prepared to deal with it. Be strong. Be strong. And I know God made some strong women. Be strong, because a lot of women go through pain in life and they don't carry it on their faces.
Yeah.
And they go through life dealing with certain things. And I did deal with menopause the way that, but I never get it the way other people get it and get, violent or stuff like that. I never do. And I never get miserable, and I never ask if anybody feel what I'm feeling, because in the winter time when it comes, it's beautiful. Because while everybody's freezing, you're warm. And then at the end of it, you get a nice cool down. So there's nothing to, it's
you
it's
you
it's
always
nice
see
when
the
you
glass half full.
huh?
You always see the
Yes.
glass half full.
Well, there, because it's nice when you live long enough to go through and experience these things in life. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's people taking medication for it right now, which is sad.
Yes. And so, in terms of managing PMS, right? How to get to a place where you your body can regulate and your hormones can stay in balance as much as possible is to
Mm-hmm.
eat right for your gut health, right? So now we know a lot more about how our microbiome actually impacts our brain, how it
Exactly.
functions, our hormonal
Mm-hmm.
balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to make sure that we're actually eating appropriately, eating a diverse um, set of plant foods, right? Because
Right.
that's where the nutrients are coming from,
Mm-hmm.
that your gut bacteria actually wants to eat. Your gut bacteria
Mm-hmm.
feeds on fiber, and we talked last week that you don't get fiber from meat and dairy, right? So you
Right.
want to have plant matter. You also want to make sure that you are digesting it properly. So if you're having any
Mm-hmm.
IBS symptoms, you're going to want to check that out. And of course, we are huge fans of Dr. B. Will Bushowitz. He has the Fiber Fueled book and the Fiber Fueled cookbook, which are great
Mm-hmm.
resources
Mm-hmm.
to get started with. Also, are you bloated or retaining fluids? Maybe cut back on the salt, right? This is something to look into. How is your consumption of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains? Like we said, you need a diversity. And there's certain nutrients in particular that we're looking for, right? Like calcium, which you could get from winter squashes. And now is the time for that winter squash, right? We need to be on our winter squash game. I just had acorn squash the other day. Something happened with your audio.
Something went wrong with yours. I heard it. It's yours.
It
When you
got
spoke,
louder.
it just kind of flashed through.
Oh, but you could hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So I just turned you down. Hopefully it works on YouTube. If folks are having difficulty hearing, just let me know in the comments. Um, but yeah, winter squashes for calcium, and also almonds are really good for calcium. Leafy greens, super important. You talked about the hot flashes and perimenopause, but also with PMS, we need those leafy greens, the collards, mustards, turnips, kale, bok choy, spinach. All of that has the nutrients, has calcium that we need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, avoiding caffeine and alcohol is also
Right.
helpful. And I know you had said that you downed a lot of caffeine when you were working too. So that could have been.
Yeah, when I was working, but I think my body is like a little different. I don't know. And what it is, it's a different time we are living in. So I find that what will affect young people today wasn't affecting us when we were that age. You understand? So it's a different time we're living in.
Yeah,
Everything seems more dangerous, and so
because
it's
of all the chemicals, and that's what we're going to be, hopefully if we don't get to it today, we could get to it next week. But this is the big thing. Like, we have more digestive issues now because of the non-organic stuff, all the pesticides being sprayed on the food, the endocrine disruptors, the pervasiveness of plastic. You grew up at a time when plastic wasn't even in circulation, you know? So
no,
it's like
no,
you had less bioaccumulation than the rest
yeah,
of us, you know?
right.
Um, and so, yes, it's impacting us. You know, it is impacting us a
Badly.
lot. Another thing for managing PMS is incorporating an exercise into your regular routine. Engage in at least 30 minutes of walking, cycling, swimming, some kind of aerobic activity. Not only is it great for PMS, but it's also great for your brain and cognitive
Yes.
abilities. We talked, I think, last week about recall and how the COVID situation, you know, if you had COVID, the brain, you probably noticed you having like brain fog and it's just not working as great as it used to.
That's
Um,
what I heard. Yeah.
but exercise actually creates an enzyme, and it creates neurotransmitters. It helps to bring oxygen to the brain. So this is shown, studies are showing that this is really great for cognitive health. And so that could help kind of, address some of those issues. Another important part that we talked about is reducing stress. So making sure you get plenty of sleep. Make sure you get plenty of sleep. One of the ways to reduce stress too is progressive muscle relaxation, deep breathing exercises. That kind of helps to reduce like anxiety, or if you're having trouble staying asleep, having insomnia or something like that. Try yoga or massage. One of my favorite things right now is yin yoga at the Chopra Center, which is basically is like restorative yoga where you stay in the poses a little longer. Like 5 minutes you'll be in a pose. I know.
Even if it hurt?
Well, they're softer, so they're not gonna hurt. You're like you'll lay on a pillow. You have more props, so you'll like be in child's pose and you'll lay on a pillow for 5 minutes on one side, and then on the other side for another 5 minutes. It's
That's like meditating.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, this class, the yin yoga, they call it soothe, flow and soothe, or soothe and restore, something like this. And at the end, there's a 20-minute yoga nidra session. So you're basically laying down in corpse pose for 20 minutes. And the yoga teacher, she's doing the yoga nidra, going through basically progressive. You can do progressive muscle tension while she's calling it out, but she basically says, some like your toe, your foot, your ankle, and she goes up the body like this, and it's very relaxing. Honestly,
but that
what?
wouldn't help people like me. And if anybody out there listening who is like me, who lay down for 20 minutes, you lay on your back because in a corpse
on your back.
Honey, I'll be snoring down the place and everybody will be...
Some people snore in class and they have to get gently, touched to like, hey, you're snoring. Yeah, it happened. But yeah, like I never hear when she gets to like the head or anything, because I'm in a different world by that point. I'm present, but I'm not. It's an amazing experience.
But that's when you're sleeping, Sam, you're present, but you're not.
Well, there's deep sleep. That's different, because when I'm in my bed, I drop into REM real fast. You and I, our chronotype is lion, right? So for folks who know, Michael Bruce wrote a book about the sleep chronotypes, right? And he basically puts it into 4 different categories, comparing us to mammals, right? So for my mom and I, we're lions. So we are the morning people, right? We basically rise with the sun and we fall asleep. Basically, we get tired once the sun sets.
Correction. We rise before the sun.
That's true. Yes. That's true. This morning I got up at 5. And our sunrise is not until like 7:15.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're on the same schedule.
Yep. Yeah. And so, but there's a difference, like when I'm in those deep relaxation yoga classes or the sound healing classes, I have more of a out of body experience where it's like I can't hear, but I'm conscious. I'm having an experience, I'm like seeing colors and shapes behind my eyelids, or sometimes I'll even have like visions, almost like dreams, but like fantastical dreams, but when in bed I fall into deep REM. There's nothing, and then so it's different. It's like once you get, so this is a great example. I remember, Mom, there was a time when you were working and Grandma was alive, and she was going through the whole thing, because when Grandma was alive and diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, I mean, there were multiple times we had to call 911, ambulance bringing her out in the middle of the night, right, to go to the hospital because something happened,
Right.
When you have type 2 diabetes, there are comorbidities that come with it, co-conditions, and so there's all sorts of things that could go wrong, right? So this is going on. You running a business, you have kids, and if you sat for 2 minutes, you would be out. Like you just needed to sit down to fall asleep. And even after she passed away, you were like this for quite a while, for at least a few months before
Yeah,
you
because
got to a point where you can actually sit and watch a movie. That's how we knew you were getting to a place of rest, when you could actually sit and watch a movie and not fall asleep. And it took you a
because
long time to get there.
you remember your first experience with that when we went to the movies.
Oh my gosh. Queen of the
That's
Damned. Rock music playing. This vampire is eating everybody. There's blood everywhere. And my mom is snoring right next to me so loud, like in the theater. I'm like,
but
how could you sleep?
the first time that happened though is when we went to a kid movie, and the little boy hit me in my head with his foot because I was snoring. And you were getting upset, and I said, it's okay, I'll move over to the other side. So I moved all the way over because it was a kid movie. You were young, but you didn't like the idea of him using his foot to, you know.
But that where your body was in a highly engaged, like place where it's like it's just running. So as soon as you lay down, it was like, because the body's so fatigued, the nervous system so fatigued.
Yeah.
And so once you got to a place of rest for your body, right, you had less things going on externally. Now would be a time where you could appreciate something like a restorative yoga or sound healing, where you don't fall asleep. It's just meditation. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's consciousness and you're awake, but you're in rest, and that's why I always say, like, I heard a yoga teacher say this once, and I love it. It's like, when you first start doing yoga and you find yourself falling asleep in these restorative practices, allow your body to rest, because it's telling you basically it needs the rest. So you have to give it the rest first, before you could get to a place.
Don't fight it.
Don't fight it. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and so these stress relievers and relieving stress, I did do a live on this recently on YouTube, and I have the link here. I could drop it in the chat for folks who want to dig a little deeper on stress relieving techniques. Regarding PMS and work, okay, one of the brilliant things that has come out in conversation around this is actually working around it. So and I won't go into like the specifics, because there are specifics of for women, what's happening with our hormones at different phases of our menstrual cycle. So the menstrual cycle is like the 28-day cycles. For some people, it could be 29, 30, right? It's just a month, and it starts with your period. And there are 4 phases. And in each of these phases, the hormones are doing something different. And so with that, there are times of the month when we have lots of energy and we're very creative. And these are times when, like, if you're an entrepreneur, it's a great time to dream and create, put pen to paper on some of the things you want to execute on. Then there's times of the month where you have lower energy, right? Because there's things happening in the body. And so our hormones are in a different funky period. And so it's consistent. It should be anyway, consistent on a monthly basis, that this week or for these days I am low energy. So what you do, instead of fighting it, right? And trying to push through, because remember, this whole workforce system was created by men, right? Men were working first, like outside of the home, and then women came in when the men had to go to war, right? It's a new thing with women like working out, right? So it's like the way things are in this economy of the West, how they do it, of this like the nine to five, or even really what people are doing, 12-hour days and whatnot on a day-to-day basis, or doing 60-hour work weeks, 80-hour work weeks. It's just grinding through, right? Men have a different energetic cycle than we do, right? Because men are
Yes, I
different.
do.
They're working on a 24-hour cycle. We're working on a 28-day cycle, right? So there's a period of time in the month where we have low energy. So instead of fighting it, take it easy, relax. Like, don't expect to be productive those days. And the only way you're
No.
going to know what those days are is if you track on a monthly basis.
Yes.
So for me,
Keep a record.
keep a record, exactly. For me personally, I use an app, and I know some people aren't comfortable using apps now with this whole Roe v. Wade situation that happened. But I use the app. I don't have an issue and with it personally, because I don't have an issue with it. But I totally understand if people want to protect their information. Don't put it in an app. Put it in a book. Put it on somewhere else that you find is safe. But with this app, I know consistently, since I've been tracking for years, I know exactly when my menstrual cycle starts, right? I have to put this in because one of my headphones died. But you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. I know when my menstrual starts consistently. I know when it's going to end consistently because I've been tracking. And the next level is tracking your moods on these days. So you know, one of those peak moments when you have all this energy, that's when you plan to get a lot of things done and be super productive. When are the areas when I have less energy? Those are your chill days. Those are the things you don't budget anything on the calendar to do stuff.
You know why keeping record is good, Sam? I've shared something with my mom when she was alive, when I was going through my period, and I get the premenstrual syndrome. And when I used to get it, I used to get irritable, but I didn't realize it. I was, and I realized that one day I said something to mom, and she looked a little upset because I'm never rude to my mom, never rude. But you know, they say actions speak louder than words. Whatever I spoke to her, my action probably was not good. And she didn't look, because my mom was the type of person that there's nothing I could do to really hurt her, because she know I'm a very manly person. I would never upset her. So I remember one day I went to her and I says, Mom, I want to say something to you. There's a certain time of month that I get very irritable, and sometimes when I speak, it might not sound right. And I think that's the only time that I can remember I ever spoke about premenstrual syndrome, because my mood would change before my period began, like 3 or 4 days before. And I went to her and I spoke to her, because we from a old-fashioned type society where these things are not, you see, like, oh, you and I are open with certain things. It wasn't like that with us growing up.
Yeah.
We're not open up. We don't speak up about things like that. So when it was happening to me, out of respect, I said it to my mom, because we're very close. We're very close. Still close, although she's dead. And I said to her, just in case at any time you see like I'm out of line, it's really not even me doing it. Something going on. And and
Blame
that's
it
how I
on
explained it to her.
progesterone.
That's what I did. Because, although she might have been through it, her mother never say nothing to her. So she probably wouldn't even understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was how so I can understand.
It's funny, this thing that you said, because I think, and I could go into detail offline, but I remember like when I, there was a time when I went through puberty and you experienced a change that I didn't notice, right? And sorry, I haven't been talking all day. So now that I'm talking and you have me laughing before the live, now I have all this mucus in my chest. But anyway, when young women go through puberty, there are changes that happen, right? And there are healthy changes, But because they're new and we don't really talk about women's health that much, there's a lot of like um, fear around it and stigma around it, right? And the period thing is only one of them. You know, that's only one thing, but there's like all sorts of different changes that happen. It's like, so when women, especially if they plan to be mothers, especially if they're going to be mothers of daughters, get educated on how the body works and why things happen, like cervical mucus, for example, what it should look like, what it should smell like, and how normal it is and why that's actually a good thing, right? All of these things happen for a reason, because as women, God decided it's our role to make sure, you know, life continues, right? So
Yes.
so our body
Those are
has
called hormonal changes, though, in the body. When
right,
hormones are changing.
hormones changing, but all of this happens in order for us to bring life into this world. So it serves
Right.
a purpose. And so, you know, when the mothers know and they're able to convey the messaging to their daughters, it doesn't have to be, the daughters don't have to pick up this, ooh, I'm nasty because these things are happening to me, you know? It's like, you're not nasty. Like, these are normal, natural things. And I think as a society, we could do a lot better
A
in
lot
that
better, yeah.
area.
If we open up to our children, because I didn't get enough open up in order to open up to you to tell you what to expect, other than what you already knew, you know. But that's what I'm
And I
saying. I'm
knew
from
only
that
what I saw on TV, and ain't nobody talking about this on TV, because everybody, even like we like to talk about, you know, making sure you check your urine and your feces and stuff. Some people don't like talking about, ooh, how you talking about this? Oh,
I
you
know.
can't.
Why does people
And
get
it's like,
upset?
you need to know this, especially if you go into a doctor, because you can't know more about what's happening with your body than your doctor. You know what I'm saying? The doctor needs you to tell him or her the information. And this is how you get the
Exactly.
information.
You
You
know
know?
something? I don't know. People think I'm just very raw because I'll tell them, I says, whenever you go to the bathroom and urinate, look at your urine. And I'll explain to them, sometimes watch your diet too, because some of the things that you do have in your diet, you pass it out in your urine and the urine have a different color.
Yes. And your feces and urine will tell you something is wrong very quickly, and your skin, so that you can go address it. You know what I'm saying? At least do a diagnostic with the doctor, even if you
You
don't
are
want to take.
supposed to be able to have a certain smell coming from your urine to know if everything is okay. Because a lot of people don't even realize that. It's not supposed to smell sweetie, you know, like have a sweetie smell to it. And your stool is the same way. The stool not supposed to have a stench like you want to pass out. People don't realize that. You're not supposed to have a stench. When I tell people sometimes that when I do move my bowels, it smells like garlic. So you're actually smelling some of the stuff you eat.
Well, garlic will get everywhere. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
it
Garlic
overpowers everything.
it overpowers everything, but you know what? It keeps the vampires away, so we like garlic.
And the
We
gut
like
like it
garlic.
too. The gut like it too.
Yes.
But I'm saying it's not wrong for you to examine your stool and your urine. It's very important.
Yeah. So in that aspect, when it comes to that, you're gonna examine that, but also getting to learn more about how the female body works. So that especially if you have a young daughter, so you could educate them beyond menstruation. There's other things. Now, in terms of reestablishing hormonal balance, we've talked about this on the show before, and I'm dropping the link to that. It looks like it probably got caught up with this note, so I'm gonna put the link again. So you can go back to our previous episode on that. Other things, sleep, we talked about sleep. Avoiding refined sugar, right? This is important because refined sugar is going to make you cramp up and hurt. At least that's been my experience. Before, when I had things with refined sugar, not only would it make me cramp up and hurt, but I noticed that my mood, you know how you talked about how you told your mom, you know, those few days before your period, you're just like not yourself, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's how refined sugar would affect me. Like it would just my anxiety was worse, my mood was worse. I would get depressed, low mood type of thing. So refined sugar had to be cut out completely, and that means like um, really looking at some of the bottled things. Like some things we think are healthy. For example, kombucha. Kombucha has sugar in it, you know?
Oh yeah, anything in the bottle, them they sweeten sugar and salt to preserve those things.
Yeah. So it may be something you can't do because you find that your mood is changing, right? For the
Mm-hmm.
negative when you're consuming this thing. So it's something to keep in mind. Also, omega 3s are super important. These are our healthy fats. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to drop a resource from rawfoodmealplanner.com regarding that, where to get your omega 3s. My favorite, as you know, are flax seeds and hemp seeds. Flax seeds are like super
Mm-hmm.
important for women in particular in our hormonal balance. Um, I know that we are going to be wrapping up like in 15 minutes or so, but I have to talk about the effects of PMS and PCOS. So PMS we know is premenstrual syndrome, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
we're getting irritable, angry, frustrated, discomfort in the body, just uh different things like this, right? So because we're so uncomfortable, sometimes we lash out, like mommy said. Sometimes folks who are dealing with menopause, which is another hormonal imbalance change going on,
Mm-hmm.
people would get violent. PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is caused also by hormonal imbalance. Now, reducing
Mm-hmm.
the effect, they've done a study on this, right? For PMS, the reducing the effects of PMS and PCOS. Polycystic
Mm-hmm.
ovarian syndrome uh, means you have cysts on your ovaries. We talked before about how you end up with cysts on your ovaries, and there's a lot of different ways. One can be the foods, right? Meat and dairy, right? Dairy in particular has been called out for PCOS and endometriosis. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but also our hair products, our skincare products, they have endocrine disruptors. And so that's what I kind of want to dig into a little bit. But in terms of reducing the effects of these things, it's what we talked about earlier. Eating the foods we talked about, root vegetables, leafy greens, which we probably don't eat enough of, according to the data, that most Americans are not eating enough leafy greens, seeds, nuts, and just to get a wide variety of nutrients, right? But
Mm-hmm.
there's a
Mm-hmm.
link, and I'm gonna put it here in the chat. This study on the National Institutes of Health website, they did a study on the link between environmental toxins, PMS, PCOS, and thyroid imbalances. If they'll let me. Okay, I think it's too long, so they'll only let me put the link. So this is the NIH study. I'm just putting the link in the chat. Um, it says on the site, right, the group of molecules identified as endocrine disruptors are very diverse and include synthetic chemicals used as industrial solvents or lubricants and their byproducts. That includes PCBs, PBBs, dioxins, plastics, bisphenol A, plasticizers, which are phthalates,
Mm-hmm.
pesticides, which include chlorpyrifos. And the reason
Mm-hmm.
I call that out is because we talked about that particular one on one of the episodes when we were talking about nonstick pans.
Right. Okay. Yes. Uh-huh.
DDT, which when DDT came out, this is during your time, Ma, they sprayed DDT on all the food and they said it was safe.
I
And
remember. But they killed the plant.
25 years later, women showing up with cancers, and they're like, it might cause cancer. We're not sure. Then 40 years in, they're like, yes, now it's a carcinogen, it's banned. But these things they're like forever chemicals, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
still in our environment they spray and then they test after, right? They wait till people get sick and complain, and then So also fungicides are endocrine disruptors, pharmaceutical agents, right? This study goes on to say heavy metals and metalloids may have estrogenic activity, right? Meaning they are mimicking estrogens or affecting your estrogen, right? Suggesting that the compounds are endocrine disruptors as well as generalized toxicants. Several classes of endocrine disruptors act as anti-androgens. Anti-androgens means that they counteract the effects of the male sex hormones, testosterone and dihydrotestosterone. What does that tell you, Ma? When you hear that, what does that say to you?
It's frightening to listen to, because the you talk about this, they spraying it on the food, they use it in the products and all this stuff. And I remember growing up as a young girl, they spray the bananas and the plants in Jamaica, and I don't remember the reason why they sprayed, but whatever spray came down and to kill whatever it's supposed to kill, it killed the coconut trees. They all died. So that to me was a sign of that. Can just imagine you walking around and that spray get to you, what it does to you. So I know a lot of people get damaged from it,
Yeah, when I hear that these endocrine disruptors are anti-androgens, right? Which anti-androgens affect the male sex hormones, right? Testosterone. What happens when a man has low testosterone, right? Right? Because a healthy man has a certain level of testosterone, a certain level of estrogen. We have testosterone and estrogen at certain levels, right? It has to be in a certain balance. This is what affects how we present our voice as a woman, like our sex organs and different things. Same for a man. So when these scientists are saying endocrine disruptors are affecting male sex hormones, that tells me that let's say I came into this world with the apparatus of a man, right? But because of these endocrine disruptors...
No, I get it. Yes, go ahead, explain it away, because I'm getting it now. Yes.
Because of these endocrine disruptors, my voice maybe is
altered.
Is perceived as maybe
a woman,
more feminine or something. And so I'm being treated now as more feminine. And because I sound this way, and I'm seeing what society is reflecting back to me, I now start to act in a way to match that.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So It's like, is the decision really my own, or is it chemically caused?
Chemical imbalance, that's what caused it.
It's just something to think about. And this, I'm not making this up. This is from the NIH study. Right.
And it also caused children to have that thing,
that's a new thing. It's a new thing. Yeah, and almost everybody's like, I have ADHD. It's like almost everybody has this. I think it's a culmination of things, and two, our devices and all of this stuff. Our brain is having to process so much information a lot faster, but I think that's a huge part of that as well. But this study is specifically saying that these chemicals that we listed, right? The pesticides, the plasticizers, we know plastics off gas, and they also get absorbed in our skin. They get absorbed into the things we put in them, right? That they're housing, that we consume. Plus the animals that, and it talks about this with the animals too. Let me just go on. So endocrine disruptors also disrupt thyroid hormones. Okay, our thyroid is critical. for our
Right,
health. There's
right.
so much that the thyroid is doing. More recently, androgenic endocrine disruptors have been identified. So, androgenic means it's pertaining to the development of male characteristics. This includes body hair, genital organs, muscle mass. Okay? So, endocrine disruptors have been androgenic endocrine disruptors have been identified. That means these chemicals are affecting genital organs,
Yes, yes.
right?
So,
So maybe you were supposed to be one thing, but your organ is saying something different. I don't know.
and
There's just
that happened from birth, from the developing of a child.
because they say with these endocrine disruptors, they don't only affect the first touch,
Yeah.
it affects further generations. So you're talking about in the case of DDT, for example, it was sprayed during your time, right? So it's like I can't remember when the actual thing. I feel like it was sometime in the 50s,
No, no, it
60s,
wasn't. It was in the 50s. I think they started like about in the 60s, the early 60s.
60s.
Yeah, I
So
think so.
then the cancer didn't show up till 40 years later. But anyway, those people were first touched by it. Either they ate the food that the DDT was on, or they were a farm worker where it was being sprayed, or whatever, however they got the DDT. It's in their system now. But it doesn't, and then it's passed through breast milk to their kids. But
Mm-hmm.
also, the grandchildren are dealing with the effects of it, right? The great grand. So it doesn't only stay with this one generation.
No, everybody inherit it. It's like it's go down the line. Yes.
Down the line.
Yeah.
This study goes on to say industrialized areas are typically characterized by contamination from a wide range of industrial chemicals that may leach into the soil and groundwater. And we know that because what goes on our streets is asphalt, right? That's
And
all.
yes. Oh yeah.
So when it rains, that stuff goes into the sewer system, but you're not going to use that runoff water to farm and stuff like this. That's toxic. That's a known thing. You're not going to use that kind of water.
Right.
It has to be potable.
I think those are the things so that cause cancer in the body. People get cancer because even in Long Island, they have the highest rate of breast cancer out there, and they say it's from the water.
Wow.
Yeah, Long Island.
Which is why you need to invest in a filter. Like regardless of where you are, it's so critical. It goes on to say these complex mixtures enter the food chain and accumulate in animals higher up the food chain, such as humans, bald eagles, polar bears, and other predatory animals. Exposure occurs through drinking contaminated water, breathing contaminated air. And what do we know about air? Because we've talked on the show before about off-gassing. When you buy new
Yes.
furniture, it's off-gassing chemicals. When you put down new carpet, it's off-gassing chemicals. When you put paint that's not low VOC on the wall, it's off-gassing chemicals, right? You buy new shoes, new leather bag, hopefully you're vegan and not buying the leather. But hey, I already know there's people watching this that aren't yet at that level. So it's like, these things are off-gassing. Even
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
from growing up in New York City, during the summertime, you smell the asphalt. You
Yes,
smell it.
yeah.
The car tires, because it's so hot. You smell, all that stuff is burning. You smell that. When you smell that, that's off-gassing. You're inhaling those tires and the asphalt. You're inhaling that. You get the exposure from ingesting food or contacting contaminated soil. People who work with pesticides, fungicides, and industrial chemicals are at particularly high risk for exposure and thus for developing a reproductive or endocrine abnormality. We're having a lot of conversation right now about the difficulties Black women are having with the medical system when it comes to their reproductive care, right? There's a lot of intersections and issues happening here. One, there's health issues, right? But
Mm-hmm.
two, health issues also tend to be concentrated in low income areas and in
Right.
urban areas like the study just talked about, right? So if you're in a area that was historically redlined, so they put the gas stations there, they put the auto repair shop there, they put, you know, maybe there's a landfill in your area, because a lot of times these things get negotiated at city council meetings, and I
And
guess
there's
we're not
nobody
showing
there to
up.
speak up.
Yeah, I guess we're
Yeah.
not showing up at the city council meetings to say, don't put that in my neighborhood. Don't put the
Mm-hmm.
highway in my neighborhood. All those cars coming by, the fumes coming in. So there's toxic accumulation happening in the body. And like I said, with these endocrine disruptors, they're not only affecting us, but the kids and then the grandkids and things. So this is how this stuff goes on. Now, the point that they touch on about people working with pesticides and fungicides, these are the farmers. And I just want to shout out Food Empowerment Project, which is a nonprofit that's advocating for farmers and like connecting with these groups to get organic produce to be the standard. We
Mm-hmm.
have already all these toxins that we have that our body is having to deal with. We need to take it out the food. Like, we can do that, right? We just need
Yes.
political will to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're at the tipping point where people are like, yes, we need to be plant-based. The White House just had last weekend a huge conference. They're putting money behind plant-based nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
which is huge. It's a great win for us. We need that with when it comes to organic produce
Right.
for
Well,
the for the
the
lives of the
White House, they
people
putting it
growing the
through, and
food.
the city putting it through. They talk about plant-based, but they're not talking about organic plant-based.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? I mean, I know people have to start somewhere, but why would you start with something bad, Why would they try to still push something bad on the people and the chemicals, in the food for them to eat? That's not healthy.
No, it's not. So yeah, I wanted to highlight this study, and I'm hoping people read. It's really long, and we only touched on a little bit of it because it goes in. There's different categories. It goes into all the different ways these endocrine disrupting chemicals are
Mm-hmm.
pervasive. But I don't want to leave on a negative note. I want to highlight how important it is that we know that this is happening, but also know that your body is always regenerating itself. This is why I just like, God is so good. Like, our bodies are amazing and
Yes.
amazingly resilient and smart, right? As
Mm-hmm.
long as we give it what it needs. So a lot of us are eating for pleasure, and that's great. I like to enjoy what I'm eating too, but we do need to focus our energies on the foods that the body calls for so it can repair damaged cells and like kick these toxins out. You know what I'm saying? We talked about elimination last week, and in order to eliminate these toxins, we need to not hold on to excess fat, and we need to get the waste out. And I think the big area of opportunity is with greens. So I really encourage
Yeah.
you all to click on that link for the summit. Get yourself in community with folks who are enjoying raw foods and see how you can enjoy it too to get more raw into your diet, regardless of the situation you're in. We have a diverse group of speakers, folks who found raw veganism while in prison, folks who are doing raw veganism living in an RV. I mean, lots of different situations. Folks who are doing raw abroad. People say, oh, how do you go out to eat? How do you travel? Like, people are doing it. You know what I'm saying? Once you
Mm-hmm.
decide this is your lifestyle, you don't have an obstacle because this is just how you eat.
Exactly.
So I highly recommend that you sign up for the summit. Also, if you enjoyed this session today, this working group session, I like these talks because, like, I'm in this whole thing with you. Like, we're on a health journey. There's always room for improvement, and there's always something that we can call on others to support. Like, our government needs to do more to support, and our environment, like the folks that make decisions on what happens in our actual communities, can do more to
Right.
support our health. So we just need
That's
to be
right.
educated so we can vocalize it. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click the notification bell so you are notified when we go live. We will be here next week, Saturday, talking about how to get over a salt addiction. Okay. Because we just talked earlier about if you are holding on to water and having PMS issues, that could be that you're just eating too much salt. And a lot of people talk about having high blood pressure. This is a salt issue as well. So we're gonna be diving deep into that.
Right. And let medicine be your food and food be your medicine.
Let medicine be. It's just let food be your medicine. Don't let medicine be your food, please.
Let food, sorry. Let not medicine be your food. Let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. Correction, thank you.
You don't want medicine to be your food now. It's okay.
No. Did I say that again?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let food be your medicine.
Yes.
And not medicine be your food.
Correct. Very
Okay.
good.